Hello everybody and welcome back to Pages and Pens. My name is Julie and today I am here with my top books of 2020. Let's jump right into it. So today I want to talk to you about my favorite reads from 2020, and I have them broken up into kinda categories, not true categories, but like a little bit of a category. So I have some sci-fi and more dystopian books. I have a couple of thriller horror books and then some contemporary novels. We're going to jump into all of them. I'm going to start off with my one dystopian-esque novel, and that's Station 11 by Emily St. John Mendel. I am so excited to read The Glass Hotel, also by her, which I got signed and personalized. I met her. She was amazing. I don't know how I waited this long, to read this book, but then I did right at the start of the pandemic, and it was very poignant and fitting. I know this isn't like everybody's cup of tea, but I really like this, and I almost unhauled it multiple times because I was like, it's Shakespearean, it's dystopian, it's pandemic-y. I honestly thought Station 11 was like a moon space reference. It is not, but it is like an alternate our world after a pandemic has hit. I think it was what I needed. No, it's not what I needed. It was a case of right time for this book, and this read just kind of really worked for me. So this was definitely a 5-star read. It was slower in pacing, but it was impactful and poignant and kind of fit what I wanted in that moment. And who knows, maybe it prepared me for like more of 2020, but you know, it's fine. Then we have full-on sci-fi, A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor by Hank Green. This is the sequel to what the fuck is it called? An Absolutely Remarkable Thing, which I also have right back there. This is a 5-star read. This was amazing. Loved everything about this. The only thing I will say is that we're missing a character for like a large chunk of this book that I really enjoyed in prior books, and I understand why. And I understand like the weaving of the story, but like everybody I wanted to see was in this. Everybody had a role to play. It just says a lot about humanity, about what we value, about what we put forward into the world, and who we present ourselves as versus who we are and our fears. It is a lovely exploration of just humanity in a sci-fi novel. It's a great duology. It's easy to get through. I recommend that book. Then we have Recursion by Blake Crouch. I also read Dark Matter by Blake Crouch and surprisingly really enjoyed it. Recursion is one that, again, did not know I was going to like because I don't really like time and space things, alternate timelines, multiple dimensions. This decision takes you here, this decision takes you there. It's not my jam. It's not my jam. And that's very much what Blake Crouch does, but it's also what they do very, very well. So for me, it works. I did read and tab and annotate this, and it was both emotional and poignant and frustrating, but also human, and I liked it. I liked it a lot, and I'm realizing that while I don't typically love this kind of a storyline, when Blake Crouch does it, I'm into it. So I trust in Blake Crouch when it comes to that kind of a storyline, because for other authors, I do not. It doesn't always work for me, but for him, I make it happen. Then we have more of a horror-ish contemporary. It's not really horror. It's just body horror. It's just gruesome. This is a very dark, very gruesome book. This is a survival story, Be Not Far From Me, by Mindy Mcginnis, about a girl who gets lost in the wilderness after a drunken fight with a boyfriend. She walks up, he's banging it out with somebody else. She gets upset, she wanders off into the woods, falls down a ravine, injuries occur, survival situations. It is so dark and so gruesome that I'm putting it in like a horror thriller category. Very graphic, and I loved it. I talked about this in a couple of other videos, but Mindy Mcginnis is a favorite author of mine. I'm not surprised that I loved a Mindy Mcginnis book. What I'm surprised about is that the survivalist aspect of this still worked for me. It was no joke. It was like truly no joke. And then I'm going to talk one last time. That's not true. I have a whole video on thrillers, so I will discuss this again. But I'm going to discuss Rewind by Catherine Ryan Howard, who seriously, like, just catapulted me into thrillers this year. because of her unique writing style, the way that she approaches thrillers, the way that this story lets you kind of figure things out along with the characters so that you don't feel like an idiot at the end when they reveal like this is who it was, but there was zero chance you could have pieced that together. You can piece together most of this, but it's fun to kind of try to figure it out along with the characters. I read this as a buddy read and was able to talk about it. With the exception of Distress Signals, I've read all of Catherine Ryan Howard's books as buddy reads, which is really helpful and really fun because you can kind of like gasp and like, oh my God, and is this what I think is happening? And do you feel the same way about this person? And is this situation like suspect to you? And you can kind of go through all of that. It's just a very enjoyable read. From like a reader standpoint, it's fun to read her thrillers. Even though they're dark and they can be gritty and they can be like anxiety inducing, they're just fun to read. She writes them in really unique ways and formats, and it's just, they're phenomenal. So it was definitely a standout for me amongst the thrillers that I read this year. So that is my first 5. I'm going to throw in, to round out my 10, because I didn't have 10, 2 books that I read. They're going to be just a bonus. So I'm going with Written in the Stars by Bella Fleur. I'm going to put the author's name right here, and I'm going to put the cover and the author right here. Written in the Stars. Amazing sapphic relationship. It's kind of like hate to love, fake dating, amazing, loved it. I'm also going to put, and I know it's not fair, Casey McQuiston's One Last Stop, because it doesn't come out until June, but I did get an ARC and it's phenomenal, and I know that it's going to end up on a lot of people's favorite lists next year. It's ending up on mine now. I'm putting that as my bonus favorite. I'm technically, in terms of sapphic romances, I'm going to say Written in the Stars because that's already out, but bonus, One Last Stop. It's going to be amazing, and it's going to be a lot. It's going to be for a lot of people. It's just good. It's just good. Then we're going to get into my contemporaries. I have 2 romances and 2 harder hitting contemporaries. We're going to start with the harder hitting contemporaries. And I don't think anybody is surprised to find Fredrik Backman on this list. I read 7 Backman this year. I've officially read every single book of his. Yeah, I finished all of his published works this year. But I'm going to go ahead and say that And Every Morning, The Way Home Gets Longer and Longer by Fredrik Backman is one of my favorites. I also read this year Britt Marie Was Here, A Man Called Uwe, Things My Son Needs to Know About the World, The Deal of a Lifetime. Oh, Anxious People. I got an ARC of Anxious People and then was actually able to get a signed copy of the book as well. But this one was a standout to me. I listened to this while diamond painting. I had to stop diamond painting because I didn't know exactly how Salty Tears would react with the glue, but I sobbed. I mean, I also sobbed at Deal of a Lifetime, but this one got me. For a novella-length book, I have a personal relationship with elderly and grandparents and dementia, and watching somebody so strong and so vibrant lose little bits of themselves is absolutely devastating. This got me in all the feels. All of Fredrik Backman's books are incredibly poignant and moving. This one specifically really, really got me. I don't think I have given anything of his under 5 stars. That's not true. I may have given Britt Marie Was Here 4, but like, his books are phenomenal. And this was a standout for me this year. It's short, but it is mighty, and you're gonna feel things. Trust me, you will feel things. Absolutely amazing. And like, beautiful. How beautiful is that book? It's gorgeous. Okay. The next super poignant book of the year was The Storied Life of A.J. Fickery by Gabrielle Zevin. This isn't for everybody, apparently. If you're interested more in like the opposite view of this book, check out Murphy from Murphy Napier, who also talked about this book. She didn't love the representation of adoption in this book, I think because she said she was also going through adoption right now. It's just not as easy as was depicted in the book, which I think for the majority of books where adoption is not the focus, that's kind of what you get. But that she also just didn't love that there were certain areas of the book that felt like they were emotional just for the sake of like forcing a reader to cry. Trust me, I cried a lot at this book, but I personally loved it. I love grumpy men. This is not necessarily a grumpy old man. This is a grumpy, like, middle-aged man. But it does have some of the funniest laugh-out-loud things that happen, too, when you take a man who's not a father and not parental and throw them into a parental role, and they're like, I don't know what's happening, and watching them navigate, like, being a parent is kind of amusing. there is like one far-fetched area of this storyline, but for the most part, like, I legitimately have so many tabs and so many thoughts and so many feels. I listened to this book and still had time to stop and annotate and put tabs in this. It was absolutely amazing. I loved it. It's a 5-star book for me. I will reread this, I am certain. And it gave me the feels, and it did what I wanted it to at the time. Then I have some romancy reads. I have Beach Read by Emily Henry, which I loved, and I don't think it's only because I am a writer, but this is about 2 writers who meet up at a beach town, and they both write very, very different things. And they're both in a little bit of a writing slump, so they decide to write one another's genre and see if that breaks them out of their slump, see who can write better in the other one's genre. And I loved everything about this. It does have like darker, grittier, hard-hitting aspects. The one thing I will say in this is that like the friend group was kind of lacking for me for our main character. I felt like she was a little bit too isolated, but in terms of like general readability, enjoyability, I really, really liked this book, and it worked for me in a lot of different ways. I listened to the beginning of this book and then I finished actually physically reading it and annotating it a little tiny bit, but this was one of the standout romances for myself this year. I just really, really enjoyed it. And then the last standout romance for the year, one that I knew was going to be a favorite, and this is Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert. Talia Hibbert and the Brown sisters can do no wrong. They are absolutely amazing, but I will say that Danny and Zaf are definitely my favorite. I love Chloe and Red, but Danny and Zaf definitely take the cake. Zaf is like, he's amazing. He's pretty much like the perfect guy. If I could find my own, that would be great. I don't have book crushes or book boyfriends, but like if I did, it's Zaf, hands down. Again, another annotated and super loved book. This has everything that you can want out of a romance. We have discussion about like periods and intense heavy flows and like a dude who can handle that and who has emotional range and is in therapy and who focuses on young boys in sports and making sure that they have emotional therapy and training, that it's not just physical training, but the emotional side of sports and the toll that that takes is also very important in mental health for children and boys. And she's career driven and she's goal motivated, and there's so much about her that I can relate to. And then just kind of seeing both of their journeys and their voyages through life and then seeing them come together is just very satisfying. It was amazing. I absolutely loved this book. For the very few romances that I read this year, that is by far the best one that I read, but I also did like Beach Read, Written in the Stars, as well as One Last Stop. But the rest of it has been like, man, it was good. I didn't have as many 5-star books this year. I feel like I had really, really good ones, but not ones where I would want to stand up and like shout from the rooftops. And I had to pick one Bachman because I couldn't put all 7 on the list. That would be ridiculous, but like all of them were phenomenal. I read some really fantastic books this year. If you want recommendations for any particular category, like if you want me to recommend some thrillers based off of the thrillers that I read this year, definitely let me know in a comment down below. I read horror this year, who would have known? But if I had to pick a favorite horror and you were interested in horror, The Patient by Jasper DeWitt, amazing. And I also read this year and loved, how did I not talk about her? Dawn Kurtagich, And the Trees Crept In, The Dead House. I loved them. She also wrote Teeth in the Mist, but I didn't read that this year. But I did read the other ones this year. And I don't think I 5-starred either of them, which is why they didn't make this list. I think they were 4-star reads. But if you're interested in YA horror, specifically The Dead House was amazing. I loved it. And it's mixed media, which like adds like the creepy factor. Absolutely loved it. That is going to be it for this particular video. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you have any other standouts or favorites from 2020, definitely let me know in a comment down below so that I can check it out. That is all for now. If you liked it, be sure to give me a big thumbs up. Click subscribe, and I will see all of you in my next video. Bye, guys.